All right, welcome to another great podcast from yours truly. And I know it's been a while, I think about 2 or 3 weeks. Seems like I'm only doing this 2 or 3 weeks. I got to amp myself up to do podcasts and find anything interesting that sparks up my nerves and worth talking about on my podcast, on my Spotify or BoundTube or Instagram. I will talk about it, but this one we are going to talk and commentate about the El Salvador president Nayib Bukele speaks at the 2024 Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC. I'll let this play out, and then you will commentate, and then I will commentate, probably in between his conference and his speech. So anyway, let's excuse me. Let's see what he has to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Gracias. Yeah. All right, let's
Thank you.
This is pretty interesting because I did hear it one time, twice already actually, and these guys very inspiring.
Thank you, everyone.
And it's worth listening to. So listen up.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Listen up. He's a rock star in his country, so rightfully.
Thank you. That's all I say.
Rightfully so.
Thank you.
Arriba.
I love you too. Dear Matt and Mercy, thank you for the kind invitation to have me here at CPAC. It is truly an honor to be here just a few days after our presidential and legislative elections, which, by the way, they pulverized the opposition. They say globalism comes to die at CPAC. I'm here to tell you that in El Salvador, it's already dead.
Speaks truth, ladies and gentlemen. He's speaking truth right now. He's telling about the global system, how it's dead in the water.
But if you want globalism to die here too, you must be willing to unapologetically fight against everything and everyone that stands for it.
Yeah, he's
fight for your freedoms.
Freedom.
Fight for your rights.
I've been
The next president of the United States must not only win an election, he must have the vision, the will, and the courage to do whatever it takes. And above all, he must be able to identify the underlying forces that will conspire against him.
Yeah.
These dark forces are already taking over your country.
Dark forces. We're talking about evil, demonic.
You may not see it yet, but it's already happening.
Yeah.
You don't see it as clearly because people are designed to see linear changes, not exponential ones. We don't always recognize how fast a problem can multiply and spiral out of control.
Yeah.
The problem is much like the metaphor of the boiling frog. Once the water boils, it's already too late. People fail to see these things. It's our nature. Just like the frog, people become complacent and they don't realize how bad things are getting until it's too late. Well, I know, of course, El Salvador is a lot smaller country. Setting aside the differences, there's a similarity with what is happening here in the United States. We also have many apparently
and Canada too, North America in general. So.
And we failed to realize as a country the severity of them until it became a civil war. By the time we reacted, it was already too late. We were already boiled, like the frog.
Yep.
And it took us 50 years, 2 wars, 250,000 lives, and a third of our population displaced, and a near miracle to get our country back.
Thank you.
As your friend, I want to issue this warning so you don't make the same mistakes we did in the 60s and the 70s.
What?
It is not easy to pull yourself back.
I'm in the middle of a podcast or what?
In fact, all the experts said it was impossible. And besides, you don't want to wait 50 years and maybe hope for a miracle to get out of hell. You can still jump before the water boils. Some might say I'm exaggerating, but we can clearly see the signs of a declining society because our own hit rock bottom decades ago. It's like when we see someone getting sick. First, it's maybe just stomachache, or a headache, or a small fever. But if you don't deal with the disease, it will only get worse, and then it may be too late. Even after our first war in El Salvador, we failed again to look into the signs of the second civil war that was coming, the gang war. After 1 million people fled the first war, a lot of them came to live in ghettos here in the United States, where the gangs were formed. When former President Clinton deported a lot of those gang members without telling us they were gang members, they were criminals. They roamed free and recruited young people, thousands of young Salvadorans, to join the gangs. At first, they seemed like petty criminals, but they began to change and transform until they became the unscrupulous terrorists that we know today. Most of them even perform satanic rituals, and this has been well documented. The government back then didn't deal with the disease, nor did the next administration, nor did the ones after that. The disease that had begun with mild symptoms got worse and worse. It became a cancer that seemed incurable. We are already seeing these symptoms in the United States. Big cities in decline like Baltimore, Portland, New York, just to name a few. Places where crime and drugs have become the daily norm, and even accepted and promoted by the government. How many young people have you lost to the streets of Philadelphia or San Francisco, to fentanyl? Did we see this apocalyptic sights 15, 10, 5 years ago? Can you imagine how it will be in the next 5, 10, or 15 years? The same thing was happening in El Salvador. In the span of less than a decade, gangs took control of all the country and our society. They evolved into a parallel government, controlling elections and even political parties. Every aspect of the daily life of most people was controlled by the gangs. Murder capital of the world.
There you go. Murder capital of the world. The gangs are controlled.
Getting rid of that was the bare minimum we had to achieve in order to even start thinking about rebuilding our country. But jumping out of the water when it's already boiling is an almost impossible feat. You're not there yet. And believe me, you don't want to be.
You're getting far warning right now by the United States that you're not there yet, but we're almost there.
But we have to remove corrupt judges and corrupt attorneys.
There you go.
And prosecutors.
Corrupt judges, corrupt attorneys, corrupt judges, corrupt infiltration from within. That's what they have to get rid of, and that's what Trump is doing right now. Get rid of all the corrupt government that's infiltrating the government, that's also in Canada too. So
judges,
there you go.
Listen. Corrupt judges and prosecutors were setting the gang members free.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the gangs.
Yeah.
The corrupt system worked in tandem with the so-called international community, the NGOs, and of course the fake news, just like it happens here in the United States.
Fake news. Fake news, fake news.
Unelected bureaucrats.
And who keeps saying fake news?
Trying to instate public policy.
45.
Who elected them?
Who elected them?
They don't have a democratic mandate.
Yeah.
If they want a seat in the table, they should run for office.
There you go. Listen to this part. Listen to what he says.
Let the people vote.
Let the people vote.
It will not be a pretty sight for them.
Yeah.
If the elections are free.
See, if the elections
And
are free.
fair.
And fair.
I mean, who elected Soros to dictate public policy and laws?
That's right. How did Soros become all of a sudden the king?
Why?
The king master.
Why does he feel entitled
The puppet master.
to impose his agenda?
Who? How? Money. Power.
Let me tell you something. Soros and his cronies hit a brick wall in El Salvador.
Hit a big wall in Salvador. Okay.
Thank God, and all the glory be to him, Salvadorans are now immune to his influence. No one believes his lies anymore over there.
There you go. No one.
We just had free and fair elections. And we won in a landslide with more than 84% of the vote.
They're more than 12% of the votes. You just won the landslide. Nice. Awesome.
Let that sink in. More than 84% of the people voted to continue our policies. Our victory is unprecedented in the history and modern democracies in the world. They also gave us a supermajority in Congress, more than that. 54 seats out of 60.
54 seats out of 60. Damn. That's a lot. Landslide right there.
If we count our allies.
Count our allies.
That's 95% of Congress. Let that also sink in.
Let that sink
The
in.
people of El Salvador have woken up, and so can you. The global elites, they hate our success, and they fear yours. The people's free will to choose their leaders is something they despise, because they cannot control that.
Right.
You have experienced this firsthand here in the United States. The global elites control the mainstream media, they finance campaigns, district attorneys, to mention a few. They abuse their powers. They persecute political opponents. In El Salvador, we don't weaponize our judicial system to persecute our political opponents. A practice that may sound familiar to you, but we don't do that there. And who's the dictator? The global elites in the media, they work in conjunction, they run some stories and publish them, same pictures to reinforce their agendas. You're no strangers to that here in the United States. We deal with that in El Salvador too. That is the free press that they talk about? Please. I always criticize the defenders of institutionalism. Not because I don't think strong institutions are paramount and necessary for a democracy, but because I find them very hypocritical. They don't seem to have the same standards for themselves as they are trying to impose on others. But there's yet another component that is more dangerous than a simple double standard. Institutions were created to serve the people, and not the other way around. Somewhere along the way, those people forgot their fundamental purpose, which is more important than the institution itself. When the judicial system was created, it was created out of the necessity to bring justice. But now, it seems like survival and control of the judges, of the AGs, among others, are paramount. And the need to bring justice is merely a little more than an afterthought. Another example, the police was created to bring law and order. Let them seek law and order then. But now some of them are even afraid to do their job because they fear the consequences for doing it. They should be encouraged to fulfill their foundational roles without fear of repercussions that distract them from their missions. If the police was created to bring law and order, let them bring law and order. If the judicial system was created to bring justice, let them bring justice. Let them protect their purpose at all costs. Same goes with the press. Let them be free. A democracy needs a free press. But to enjoy that membership, you must adhere to your duty as a reporter. Report the facts. Don't be a puppet of those who finance you.
Yeah.
Or finance the organization.
Don't be a puppet, bro. See what I mean? Like, this guy's got some balls, man. This guy's sweet.
Your freedom of speech will always be protected. We believe in free speech. Everyone here believes in free speech. Your free speech will always be protected. But don't call yourself a journalist if you're just an activist.
Don't call yourself a journalist if you're just an activist. There you go.
Don't call yourself independent if you depend in open society. Soros NGO for those sacred institutions have morphed away from the reason they were created. We should not defend those institutions for the sake of being institutions. Instead, we should defend the principles that created those institutions in the first place. It's troubling to see that this is happening everywhere. Not only in El Salvador and the United States, it's happening everywhere. But even here, in the United States, in the most powerful country in the world, even here, it's happening.
Right.
America should listen to these words, not because the El Salvador model should be replicated here, but because these specific examples apply to any nation that has lost or is losing its way. Ask yourself why this is happening, who is supporting it, and whether it is by ignorance or by choice. And fight it. Fight it with all your heart and soul.
Yeah.
And be the beacon of hope. And be the beacon of hope that your founding fathers, with all their faults like every human being has, dreamt for your country.
It's a very inspiring speech right now, and I don't get inspired that much. And I do if it's good. And this guy is got
these institutions and not their mere existence.
He's telling truth. Yeah.
It's still not too late. It can be done. It is time to erase these new paradigms that have been imposed in recent years that make no sense. If you just free your minds from those invisible chains, you could do it. This shift is an extremely dangerous trend that undermines these institutions. Effectiveness and their credibility is at stake, both home and abroad. This is a warning from a friend. You should adhere to their foundational principles and purposes and denounce this new institutionalism. Now, you would think that's it, as it wasn't enough, right? But unfortunately, there's more.
Wow.
There are other symptoms that are even more difficult to diagnose. For instance, the financial situation of the United States. When I talk to my conservative friends right here, they always tell me that the problem is high taxes. But they're wrong. Of course, high taxes are extremely high here in the United States. I give you that. You're right in that.
Yeah.
But that's not the real problem. The real problem is not the high taxes themselves, but the fact that they are not even really funding the government.
That's right. Watch.
Not even those high taxes,
Watch. Listen to this. This is
higher
amazing.
than a lot of places in the world, not even those taxes are really funding the government.
He's talking truth.
So
Deep,
who's
deep.
financing the government?
Listen. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Government is financed by treasury bonds,
Treasury bonds.
paper.
Paper. Backed by
And
nothing.
who buys the treasury bonds?
That's what he says.
Mostly the Fed.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And how does the Fed buy them?
Yeah.
By printing money.
Printing money.
But what backing does the Fed have
Exactly.
for that money being printed? The treasury bonds themselves.
Oh my God.
So basically, you finance the government by printing money out of thin air.
Thin air. Magic. Woo, poof.
Someone could ask,
My God.
well, so if the government can print the limited
Oh my
amounts of money
God.
out of thin air,
Yeah.
why do they collect taxes?
That's what it is. To make money. Off us. Crazy.
I mean, in theory, it would make sense, right? If they can print unlimited amounts of money, why would they need taxes for?
Yeah.
The answer is simple, but it's very shocking. The real problem is that you pay high taxes only to uphold the illusion that you are funding the government, which you are not.
Oh man.
It's shocking, but
Shocking.
it's true.
Yeah.
The government is funded by money printing,
Money printing.
paper backed with paper,
Back with paper.
a bubble that will inevitably burst.
Boom.
The
Boom.
situation is even worse than it seems, because if most Americans and the rest of the world were to become aware of this farce, confidence in your currency would be lost, the dollar would fall, and the Western civilization with it. If the next president of the United States doesn't make the necessary policies and structural changes, sooner or later that bubble will burst. There's still time. You don't have to make the same mistakes we did in the 60s and the 70s. You can still jump before the water boils. Winning the election isn't enough to solve these problems. They will not simply go away as a consequence of an electoral result. It will take a total re-engineering of the government, top to bottom. It will entail making difficult decisions, like the ones we made in El Salvador since 2019 and that are already paying off. It will be hard. The system will push back. But you have the right to determine your own fate. Salvadorans did the same. The decision for the direction of our nation was ours, and it continues to be ours. We didn't tolerate being told what to do. In doing so, we did the unthinkable. Against all adversity, we transformed El Salvador from the most dangerous country in the world to the safest in the Western Hemisphere.
Wow. From the worst tragic in the world, tragic, scary, killing everywhere, to the safest. Wow. That's amazing. And,
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you. We did it by defying the global elites. We
Yeah.
told them no more. And that is my message to you. Put up the fight, because it is, in the end, it will be worth it. It has been for us, and you will have your country back. May God bless you. May God bless the people of the United States. May God bless El Salvador and the future of both our nations. Thank you very much.
All right, whew, that was, let's just say it was a pretty amazing speech. And watching El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, I think I think I said that right. If I said that wrong, I apologize. But he's an amazing president. Talked the truth to power about what's going on in the world today. How he went from his third world country turmoil, freaking lying, cheating, stealing, killing, from the worst country to the safest country. So let's put that in perspective, how this man got elected, not selected by the you know who, you know what, by the higher ups, by the political elites, and who own pretty much everything. You got to do your homework on that there, ladies and gentlemen, because that's where you leave it up to you. Freedom of speech, freedom, your rights to find out what's going on, your own mind, instead of somebody controlling you, your whole entity, and making your moves suppressing your moves what you want to move, and you want to know what's going on, the truth and stuff like that. And if you can't do it because you have a backup controlling you, that's where it becomes a problem with your freedom of speech. And that's in the First Amendment of the Constitution of America, is freedom of speech and the right to bear arms. So the two, that's why it's 1 and 2 go hand in hand. And once those two are gone, you're pretty much done. And that's what they're focusing on in the United States and North America as well too, as well as Canada as well. So and they're doing a pretty good job, as we know it right now, with the whole COVID and lockdown and all that other stuff. So there's that's another issue itself. So be careful and really, really do your homework on that. Who's really behind that whole situation? That is going to be another entity, another podcast to talk about right now. But we're talking about El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, talking about how he went from his third world tragic company, very, very scary to even visit because of the killings, murders, and drug lords, to the safest country. So he's speaking in front of CPAC, which is a conservative gathering for all the conservatives out there, about how to move America forward and going against the global system. 2024 is pretty much in the books, and we have to really be careful right now, because it's going to be, they're kicking and screaming. Things are evolving, working behind the scenes, and let's just say it's a global takeover, global shift that's working behind the scenes. White hats versus the black hats, white hats, let's just say angels versus devils, God versus demons, whatever analogy you want to do. It is a spiritual war, and it is. So you can't deny that. It's happening, and a lot of people are saying, oh no, but we all know who really the POTUS is, and who is running the show. But it has to be done, because when you're taking down the whole system for hundreds of thousands of years, it's not going to take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, even 5 years. Right now, it's almost 10. Ever since POTUS walked down the golden escalator, 2015, things have been changing slowly but surely, but it's working its way. And 2024 is the deadline, and we are in it. It's a big club, and we're not in it, but it's going to be a global takeover to who's going to get actual power. May God help us all. Let's just say that. So anyway, thanks for joining today's podcast, and I'll try to have another one in the next couple of days. Like I said, I'm pumping out there whatever I feel that's interested in. Today is El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele. I botched that name. But anyway, thanks for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment down below on my Spotify, YouTube channel, BombTube, Instagram, and hopefully my other, I don't know if I'm going to put it on my TikTok, but we'll see. But anyway, thanks for joining me, and see you on the next podcast. Bye for now. God bless, Godspeed, and we will see you in the next video.